Imagine this. A group of smug cadets snickering as a black woman steps onto the training field, whispering insults behind her back until the colonel sees something on her arm and goes dead silent. Then, in front of the entire base, he utters the words that change everything. That's a black viper mark. What follows will leave you speechless. This isn't just a story, it's a wake-up call. So don't scroll away. Hit that subscribe button now, because what you're about to hear will shock the USA, the UK, and the entire internet. The laughing field started on a blazing Monday morning at Fort Valor Training Academy, the air thick with sweat, pride, and prejudice. The new recruits were lining up for their first endurance drills, and among the mostly male, mostly white group of trainees, one figure stood out: Zariah Cole, a tall, calm black woman with skin kissed by the sun and eyes that radiated patience. But the patience wasn't returned. From the moment she stepped on the field, whispers echoed. Affirmative action pick. She won't last a week, and this ain't no beauty pageant. Even her uniform seemed to attract attention, slightly more fitted from her athletic past, showing toned arms and something no one noticed except the colonel who watched from the tower. Sergeant Dawson, a loud-mouthed ex-Marine with a reputation for breaking spirits, blew his whistle and barked, "Let's see if Princess Voodoo can run with real soldiers." The recruits chuckled, especially Wade, the cocky Texan who already thought he'd make officer rank by charm alone. Zariah said nothing. She just ran and finished first. Then in the obstacle course, she soared like a shadow, flipping over barriers, diving through tunnels with unmatched speed. "Fluke," Wade hissed, but the whispers began to change. Who was she? Where had she trained? And why didn't she talk? But the laughter returned during combat drills, when Dawson paired her with the biggest guy Griggs, a 6'4" wall of arrogance who flexed instead of fighting. "You ready to get smashed, girlie?" he taunted. But within seconds, Zariah was behind him, her arm at his throat, legs wrapped in a takedown grip nobody recognized. Griggs tapped out. The field went silent, but Dawson roared, "She cheated!" "Do it again." She did. Same result. The colonel in the tower stood up. That's when he saw it, just under the sleeve of her uniform, the faint tattoo most couldn't recognize. But he did. His face turned pale. He grabbed the intercom and whispered just 6 words. "That's a black viper mark." The training field froze. Wade dropped his water bottle. Even Dawson blinked. "Sir?" he stammered. But the colonel didn't explain. He just said, "Everyone to the mess hall, now, except Zariah." She stood motionless. That was the beginning of everything changing. As the others marched off, murmuring questions, Zariah stood calmly as the colonel descended the tower steps and approached her. Colonel Abramson, a decorated war vet with 30 years in special ops, squinted at her. "Where did you train?" he asked quietly. Zariah finally spoke, her voice like iron softened with silk. "My grandfather, in Angola. I earned my mark at 15. The colonel inhaled sharply. "The real black vipers are a ghost story," he whispered. "They're not supposed to exist anymore." She looked him dead in the eye. "We exist. We just don't show off." He nodded slowly, visibly rattled. Back in the mess hall, chaos brewed. "What's a black viper?" one recruit asked. Another replied, "It's like some off-the-books assassin unit. No trail, no survivors." Wade laughed nervously. Urban myth, like Bigfoot. But inside he wasn't so sure. Meanwhile, Colonel Abramson summoned his top brass for a secret meeting, asking for Zariah's full background file, but it was blank past age 16. Classified by international treaty, the system blinked. That night, Wade and 2 others, driven by ego and insecurity, broke into Zariah's locker. Instead of finding weakness, they found a folded leather case marked in an ancient dialect, a dagger wrapped in ceremonial cloth, and a letter addressed to Zika, daughter of the Viper Queen. Before they could fully process it, Zariah appeared. Behind them. "You should not have done that," she said softly. One guy lunged forward, but Zariah didn't flinch. In 2 seconds, he was on the ground wheezing. Wade fled. The next day, Zariah was gone. Rumors flew. Was she expelled? Reassigned? Then came the letter posted on the baseboard. "Zariah Cole has been called for special duty assessment." No one saw her for 3 weeks, but Colonel Abramson did. She was flown to a private mountain facility where old Black Viper survivors tested her through fire, blood, and memory. She passed. Her final trial? A blindfolded escape from a frozen labyrinth while being hunted by drones. She made it in under 40 minutes. They nodded. "Your mother would be proud." Then she was sent back with orders. Payback in Siemo Village. When Zariah returned, she wore no badge, but everyone noticed the change, more silent, more commanding. Even Dawson stopped calling her names. Instead, he avoided her. Wade tried to apologize, but she gave him a stare so cold it froze his soul. Then came news Fort Valor had been selected to host an elite war games trial with international all-eyes, and every recruit would be tested in real time against professionals. Wade scoffed. "Let's show them what real Americans can do." The colonel smirked. "Zariah will lead Alpha Team," Wade exploded. "Her? I've been training for this since high school." But his words meant nothing now. In the field. Simulation, Alpha Team moved like ghosts. Zariah's tactics, rooted in ancient Viper philosophy, anticipated enemy traps before they happened. While other teams lost men in seconds, hers captured objectives without a shot. Wade's team, Bravo, got pinned down in the first 15 minutes. Desperate and humiliated, he disobeyed orders and charged, but got captured by Zariah. She untied his hands later and said simply, "Now you know." But the real test wasn't the war game. It came when real terrorists hacked the base communications and staged an attack during the final day of exercises. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, sirens, screams. Command was in shambles. Zariah took charge, guiding recruits through chaos, setting traps, and even confronting one of the attackers in hand-to-hand combat and disarming him with terrifying precision. It was all caught on base security cams and leaked online. Overnight, Zariah became a legend. "Black Viper Lives," the headlines read. And in her silence, in her calm efficiency, in the way she saved even those who mocked her, the world began to. Zariah Cole was summoned to the Pentagon. Not reprimanded, but honored. The Secretary of Defense offered her a role in an international anti-terror task force. She declined. "I'm not finished here," she said. She returned to Fort Valor not as a trainee, but as the youngest combat tactics instructor in base history. Wade, now her student, learned quietly under her gaze. He never cracked jokes. Again, Sergeant Dawson resigned 2 weeks later, citing personal reasons, though everyone knew it was fear. And as new recruits arrived, whispering stories about the black woman who once made a colonel pale, they found her on the field calm, steady, unshakable. But her legacy had already spread beyond the base. Young girls of color across the country wrote letters. "You showed us we belong. You made us believe we're not weak. We're Black Vipers too." Zariah never replied with words. She replied by training them harder, smarter, and kinder than anyone else. And as she stood on that field each morning, watching others rise beyond limits they didn't know they could break, she finally allowed herself to smile. Because it wasn't about proving anyone wrong anymore. It was about proving herself, and every girl like her right. And somewhere deep in classified halls, the Black Viper dossier was updated. With her name written in bold, she wasn't just a trainee. She was a legacy.